Eddie would like to know if I've ever taken the political compass test. I actually have, but I originally got a left libertarian view. It wasn't until a year or two later, this was a few years ago, that I got a right libertarian result of viewpoint. And so now, am I left wing or am I right wing? No. I do not think that you should be boxed into this diarchy that's overly simplistic, yet hard to explain. So, I didn't get that many questions, so I'm going to spend the rest of this video elaborating on this. In The Ego on Its Own, Max Stirner says that you are not Bill, Satoshi, or Sam, but you are a creative nothing. A creative nothing is something that's so complex, so changing and varied that it becomes impossible to describe it with words, much less paragraphs or books. I don't follow him to an orthodox. In fact, I disagree with him on a lot of points. But I think that's kind of what makes you a creative nothing. And I don't want this to be used to say that I'm better than you. I did this too. When I was arguing about YouTube 2 years back, I talked a lot about the left and right, albeit as it pertains to censorship and how YouTube is favoring one over the other. Unless you're like supporting pedophilia or something. And I associated the horrors of this a lot with the left, but I would go on to wonder what actually was the left. It originally referred to a parliament set up during the French Revolution. It literally referred to a left wing that was more into the Jacobin proto-socialism stuff, and the right wing that was for a constitutional monarchy, and it had all the conservatives. So, what's the actual difference between them? Well, the left wing is defined as the abolishment of social hierarchy in favor of a more egalitarian society. And the right is the opposite, saying that hierarchy is natural. But that's just Wikipedia. That's just one definition. Merriam-Webster defines it as pretty similar to liberalism and conservatism. And Real Difference also has its own definition, that the left wants more government and the right wants less government for the power of the individual. What is it? I'm not actually a capitalist, but I consider myself an anti-archist, which is a term I created to describe my political views. It's essentially the removal of the privileging and taxing of power in place of more individualistic practices, so you can't have power unless the individual approves. For example, the capitalists say that everyone should be privileged protection, so you and Amazon both get the same amount of cost for protecting yourself, but Amazon gets more because it has more, and more people are willing to steal it. So I think that gives privilege to big corporations, big rich people. I believe that given that everyone has the same gun rights and is taxed the same way, that they should pay for their own guns and militias, everyone. If it can be managed, stealing is actually legal, except for those who have more gun rights. Monopolies now have to do something spectacular to pay for defense, and they aren't privileged property that gave them and maintained their monopoly. So, am I left-wing because I'm abolishing a hierarchy, Or am I right-wing because I want to give more power to individuals, as opposed to the government who's privileging businesses? This split definition is most likely due to persuading tactics. The so-called left can now use the former definition to call the right fascist, and the latter so that the right can call the left fascist. The political compass actually does a pretty good job at differentiating the meanings. The horizontal axis means how free a market is, and vertical refers to social freedoms. It, however, doesn't come close to representing what politics look like. So, where exactly is monarchism compared to fascism? Can you be economically left but culturally right? And where are philosophical mindsets like Stoicism? In fact, I say that psychology and praxis is more important than anything normally considered politics. What you did this week is more important than your vote, being voter number, what, 87 million? I don't care if you're communist or capitalist. If your population is a bunch of, I don't know, babies who need their safe space, then your country is going to collapse. So, what's the lesson here? Take a while. I've actually gotten one more question from Reddit. It's by a meme repeater, and it asks, that'll be $20, Sim.